Hello, everyone. It's Elena here with All Things by Faith. Just want to remind everybody that less than a week from now, on the 17th, is our Zoom get together and energy clearing. Um, I guess you could call it a class. It's more of like minded saints getting together and sharing their uh, experiences and uh, anything really that they want to, as well as we're going to clear energy and so forth. Um, Thank you again to all my subscribers and my clients, and I'm just going to get started with this video. So ever since my video that I entitled Happy Revolution Day, that I did on on the 4th of July this year, 2020, I tried to go live. YouTube wouldn't let me go live. I was getting a lot of live feed from the other side, um, and or wait, it's not the Happy Revolution Day. The name of it was We Will Not Go Quietly Into the Night. I published two videos that day. One was Happy Revolution Day, and the other one was We Will Not Go Quietly Into the Night. And that's the one I'm speaking of. But ever since then, I have been thinking off and on about President Ezra Taft Benson. And I've mentioned him in some of my videos. But I've been feeling inspired by the Spirit to really delve into things surrounding his political career, as well as um, his service in the church as an apostle, and then eventually as president of the church. I've come to understand that nothing is happenstance in this life. There are no coincidences. And upon further study and reflection today, I'm going to post a paper. It's 87 pages long. It was a journal article from a book called Dialogue, A Journal of Mormon Thought, volume 26, number 2. It was published in the summer of 1993. And this, the name of the journal article that's in this book is called Ezra Taft Benson and Mormon Political Conflicts. And everything in here is just cited with pages and pages. Like every page, like half the page is the article, and then the other half is all the different articles and papers and newspaper articles and, things that were taken from this, or that not taken from this, but that would substantiate this paper that's being written. And it has a lot to do with his stance on, Ezra Taft Benson's stance on anti-communism, anti-socialism, and being part of the John Birch Society and supporting them. And a lot of this article, most of this article takes place in the 1960s, before as well as after John F. Kennedy's assassination. And not only was President Benson very politically involved, I believe he was Secretary of State at that time, but he was also an apostle. And the main thing that has really opened my eyes about this and made me want to share this article is that, right now, there are still so many people conflicted about, no, the church, it always stands as one. It's this happy, rosy collective minds of the apostles and the first presidency, and they never have any conflicts, and they agree on all things, and this and that. And that has not been my feeling for quite some time. But after reading, spending the better part of a day reading this article, and the other feelings that I've been getting, around President Benson, I feel that he was a true visionary. I know that he was a prophet of the church, but I know that he was meant to be a prophet of the church. I know that that wasn't happenstance, okay? But he he literally was surrounded on all sides by those in the 12 at the time of his serving in the 12 before he was president, and other political leaders that were top families in the church, as well as they were political leaders in Utah and Idaho that really were outspoken against him. And I have developed such a deep respect for him. I already respected him, but after reading this article, I respect him so much more. I respect his perseverance. I respect his perseverance and his standing up for truth and his standing up against all those in power, including the president of the United States at that time, and during that decade. So he was outspoken against John F. Kennedy. He was outspoken against Dwight D. Eisenhower. And you guys know I am not politically charged. However, I I've mentioned this in other videos. I studied a lot of political science. I could have very easily gone into politics. And the other side asked me in my early 20s to let it go. They said it wouldn't serve me in my life and that I needed to let it go. And I enjoyed politics. I enjoyed political discussions. I was raised as a Democrat. I am neither now, although if I were being forced to choose a party at this time, I would probably choose, well, no, actually, at this time, I'm not choosing anybody, and you guys can judge me for that. I'm being really honest. I see so much chaos coming around the election, and it's not going to matter who wins at this point. It's going to create chaos, and it's meant to plunge us into civil war. It's just where we're at, okay? And for myself, I'm choosing to abstain because it would be like, for me, it would be like raising my arm to the square in a sacrament meeting and sustaining somebody that I knew was very dishonest or beat their wife or something. Like I cannot sustain either political party at this juncture. I will not. That being said, this is, President Benson faced major opposition, not just a little. And the John Birch Society was a society that was about keeping communism out of our government and socialism. And these ripples went worldwide. It wasn't just here in the United States. But my point for this whole my major point for this whole video is that I know that it has been witnessed to me that there is much conflict amongst the 12 and the first presidency now. I don't read more the LDS newspapers. Like, I don't read articles, from Utah or this and that. I don't really pay attention to what's politically going on as far as the church, okay? I'll be honest with that. And I never have. I wasn't raised in the church. I've been a member of the church for about 25 years. And this article was mind-blowing to me on many levels and eye-opening, and I received a lot of revelation. And I don't feel sorry for him, but I feel a kindred spirit with President Benson. Because I believe that well before he became president of the church, I believe that he had much in-depth revelation with the different articles and things that he posted and the different talks that he gave. And I want you to understand, in case you don't read this article, okay? He, like, the counselors, the first and second counselor to President David O. McKay at the time, were vehemently opposed to him. They openly basically talked smack on him to the newspapers. There was this much division and dissension caused amongst the 12 as a whole, and the first presidency. This article also brings to light how much, I know we don't like to think that our prophets, seers, and revelators can be influenced by political parties and political things, but I believe that at times they are. And I've already been very vocal about this, that I believe we have been infiltrated at the highest levels, and that it's gone on for decades. And this article that I read today just solidifies that into my mind and all the revelation that I've received. I invite all of you to read it. It is a very interesting, not boring read. It showcases, as I said, his, and I learned some things too. Like, I learned that during the 60s, when they were trying to integrate, during the civil liberties movement, when they were trying to integrate Black students into the white schools, and the president sent in, troops to do that, he vehemently opposed that. And I'm sure he received so much hatred and everything around that. But the Spirit showed me why he vehemently opposed that. And I'm not really going to go into, well, I guess I will. They're saying go ahead. So basically, he was opposed, and he felt that Black people and women's rights and the civil liberty movements in general was a way for the Communist Party and the Socialist Party to gain a foothold within our government. And so he was vehemently opposed to it. He wasn't opposed to Blacks. He wasn't opposed to women's rights or anything such as that. But he didn't like the people that were pushing the movements. And I'm not talking about Martin Luther King. But he didn't like, I believe that he could see the deeper agenda through the gifts that he had as an apostle. And because this was his mission, I believe his mission was to warn all of us that are in the time we're living now, even though he's no longer with us. I believe he was giving us a warning cry 50 years ago, and 60 years ago, telling us then, and trying to help us beware of the pitfalls, the political pitfalls that unfortunately have led us to exactly where we are today. Okay? So, and even in the video that I did, entitled George Floyd, a Catalyst Event, that has so few views because YouTube really censored it. But even in that, I was basically saying that, they're just using this to further their agendas, that they're using it, that whole event. And look at everything that's transpired since then. And I believe in that video, I said, you're not going to recognize the United States in like a year. I think that's the video I said it in. But that was way back in what, February, March? I don't know. It was way earlier this year. And look at how much chaos has ensued since then. Okay? And we do have insidious groups within our government. They are Luciferians. They are satanic worshipers. They are run by the puppet masters. And I believe that he saw this way back then. I believe that he saw it beginning to infiltrate. I believe that President Nelson saw it, or not Nelson, excuse me, President Benson not only saw it infiltrating our government, but he saw it infiltrating the church. It went so far, brothers and sisters, to where the church actually exiled him they put him on a quote unquote mission over in Europe, But after he left, all those who were opposed to him within the church were talking smack on him in the newspapers and everything. And this became a very open public war between those in the 12 and the first and second counselor in the presidency to David O. McKay. This was a very open, unbridled, especially for back then in the 1960s. I mean, it was full on war. And you know, he was trying to influence the LDS people, President Benson was, to see that they needed to take a stance and that, you know, they needed to support anti-communist groups such as the John Birch Society because of the simple fact that communism will never, ever, and neither will socialism, they will never support free agency and free will. Ever. Ever, never. There's no way you can ever put them in the same context together and say that they do. Or that you can have a free society and be living under a communist regime or a socialistic regime. And that's what we're facing right now. And these people that are in our government that are basically trying to tear the government down, crash the dollar, all these different things, they are human traffickers. They are Luciferians. They have been involved for decades and even in other probations before now in doing these same things. They are we are living in a day that is filled with so much evil that I truly believe that President Benson was trying to save us from this. And he was trying to open our eyes. And I feel like I'm supposed to give voice to that in this moment, that I'm supposed to give voice to him as words speaking, to his words speaking from the dust, basically, that this is what he was trying to do, that he was trying to preserve life and liberty and preserve our free will and our free agency as God has given it to us. And we are going to be facing a much different future. We already are, even though many of us may not have truly woken up to that yet. Along these lines, I wanted to just mention that today I got an email and a text from my stake presidency stating that that it was an emergency communications drill. I got an email a few days ago saying they would be conducting it today. I find that interesting. I've never seen the church in any of the wards and stakes I've lived in before do this. But on the heels of this last conference, I can only hope that good brethren and priesthood holders of the church have received revelation that this was something they needed to do. And they're taking it very seriously. They did a communications drill to make sure they could reach every person in the stake in case of an emergency, to see what our needs would be and if our families were safe, like say if we had an earthquake or how much of our property was damaged or whatever we might need help with. So things are very quickly beginning to progress. I was called to do this video today about President Benson and the task that was set before him, the task that I believe that he was born to do. And I would highly recommend and advise to all of you who are within the sound of my voice to pray about the things that I've said and to peruse the article that I'm going to link below. It is very long, but it shows the infiltration that had already begun, and I believe had already been infiltrated for many decades before that, but that was actually already rearing its ugly head within our church organization at the highest levels. And this was in like 1960, 1961, 1962. You know, so this was like 60 years ago. So for those of you who think that it's not possible, I am testifying to you yet again that it is a reality, that we need to have that connection to the Lord, ask Him, pray for answers, receive witnesses for ourselves before we just get vaccinations, wear a mask, or do anything else that certain members of our church at the highest levels are recommending. Because it has been witnessed to me that that is not so. And it has been witnessed to me again today that it's okay to speak up when you're speaking truth. And that that's what President Benson was trying to do well before he became the president of the church. He was speaking up no matter the opposition, no matter that they exiled him to Europe for several years. They thought it would shut him up and quiet him down, and it didn't. He became even more politically active from Europe for the American cause. So, I think it's just a huge wake-up call for all of us. I will link the article below. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, which is something I never do lightly. Amen.